is a response to calls from the student membership interested in learning more about the master's and doctorate degrees. The keynote will focus on 3 topics: the master's degree, the dissertation, the publication. My topic is how to go from fuzzy mess to dissertation to publication. The master's degree has a rich history as it dates back to the origin of European universities. The 19th century saw a great expansion in the variety of master degrees offered at the University of Glasgow, University of Dublin, Oxford, Philadelphia College of Surgeons, University of North Carolina, University of Michigan, Dartmouth College, Universities of Bombay, now the University of Mumbai, Madras in Calcutta, in India, and the UK. Finally, a master's degree is an academic degree conferred by a college or university upon those who complete at least 1 year of prescribed study beyond the bachelor's degree. What is a PhD or EDD degree? Both the PhD and EDD programs are dedicated to expanding the student's knowledge of their chosen field. Upon successful completion of prescribed coursework, degree candidates are required to submit a proposal that focuses on the proposed research study and select a faculty mentor who will serve as the chair of their doctoral committee. The committee is usually comprised of a minimum of 3, but maybe more, including experts in the specific field. The final step in acquiring the doctorate involves the oral defense, where the candidate defends the dissertation and is grilled by their committee and sometimes guest attendees in regard to study design, results, and future-related research. I am going to focus on the dissertation proposal, as this is the foundation for your dissertation research and final document. A strong, well-thought-out proposal can be expanded to put results, conclusion of your findings, and future research in your final dissertation document. Do you have an idea of what you want to spend the next years researching? Or is your thinking still in a fuzzy mess? Actually, the fuzzy mess is often the first stage in creative problem solving and in creative thinking, and a dissertation exemplifies creative problem solving. The proposal is the foundation of your dissertation. It sometimes helps to bounce ideas off friends. What does a dissertation proposal include? There are several parts that are used in dissertation proposals, but the structure can be different. That is why you should not use the first structure you find from the internet. Instead, you should choose a structure that works best for your paper. Make sure you have the main sections that help you show your paper's basic points, the goals you are going to reach, the methods you are going to use, and sections like literature and references. The introduction. Most dissertation proposals start with this section. You can use it to demonstrate the background of the topic to your committee, provide preliminary research questions, and your study's objectives. You should also outline questions that you are going to answer in your dissertation research proposal. If you want your proposal to be impactful, your study idea should be significant for your subject area. You may describe the significance of your study in the introduction. You should also include useful definitions, limitations. These are flaws that you are aware of but cannot help. For example, you now have to do online interviews instead of face-to-face due to the worldwide coronavirus. Next, delimitations are considered. Think of these as putting boundaries around your subjects, such as you will study only those engineers or architects with at least 3 years in practice. There may be other similar sections in your introduction, depending upon your department's or chair's requirements. The review of literature. Persevere. New or modified research questions sometimes emerge from a good lit review. What is a literature review? It is a concise overview of what has been studied. It groups related research. It discusses trends in research related to your study, and it evaluates previous and current research in regard to how relevant and or useful it is and how it relates to your own research. A literature review is a survey and discusses the literature in a given area of study. A literature review is written in essay form. It is not annotated bibliography because it groups related work together and discusses trends and developments rather than focusing on one item at a time. It is not a summary. Rather, it evaluates previous and current research in regard to how relevant and or useful it is and how it relates to your own research. In a literature review, you are organizing and presenting your sources in terms of their overall relationship to your project. A literature review is written to highlight specific arguments and ideas of the field of study. By highlighting these arguments, you show what has been studied in the field and also where the weaknesses, gaps, or areas needing further study are. The review should therefore also demonstrate why your research is useful, necessary, important, and valid. Questions a literature review should answer. What has been done in this topic area to date? What are the significant discoveries, key concepts, arguments, and or theories that scholars have put forth? On which particular area of the topic has previous research concentrated? What methodologies have been used? Are there any gaps in the research? Are there areas that haven't been looked closely at yet, but which should be? Are there improved methodologies for researching the subject? What contributions will your research make to the field? I find that when I do a lit review, new research questions emerge, and often my original questions become refined. The length of a literature review varies depending upon its purpose and audience. In a dissertation proposal, the review is usually a full chapter of around 20 pages. Two ways to structure your lit review are chronological and thematic. A chronological review involves sequencing your findings, perhaps in order of their publication, where you emphasize changes in your field over time. A thematic review focuses upon structuring your lit review into themes or topics. By grouping themes of research together, you abstract different emphases that are foundational to your research. So why write a literature review? New discoveries don't just disappear. They build upon previous research. A literature review shows how your study fits with what has gone before, puts it into context, and demonstrates that you are able to understand and critically analyze previous foundational research, showing how your study relates to previous research and fills a gap or takes existing research into new directions, unleashing new knowledge. Chapter 3, the methodology. The core components of your proposal methodology address design, sampling issues, and analysis of your data. First, consider your study purpose and your research questions, as they will help structure your methodology. That can be divided into 3 groups: quantitative, qualitative, or mixed, and mixed combines quantitative and qualitative paradigms. Your choice among quantitative or qualitative or mixed methods that influence your design, your sampling issues, and analysis of data depends upon the nature of your research aims and objectives. For the variables under examination, researchers typically obtain descriptive statistics, such as the mean, the median, and standard deviation. Quantitative studies often rely upon random sampling and structured data collection instruments, such as questionnaires or surveys that often use Likert-type scales, as in strongly disagree, moderately disagree, mildly disagree, mildly agree, moderately agree, strongly agree. Findings of quantitative studies are usually easy to present, summarize, compare, and generalize. I need to tell you a story shared with me by Dr. Torrance, who knew Dr. Likert. The original Likert scale was developed in 1932 by Rensis Likert, an American psychologist who was interested in measuring people's opinions or attitudes. And it was a 7-point bipolar agreement scale that he developed. Now, Likert told Torrance that he was annoyed at all the modifications of his scale. Thus, he wanted users who created variations or adaptations of his scale to call their versions Likert-type scales. And from then on, I was diligent to use Likert-type scale in my writing, and you know that all of my students hear Dr. Torrance's story and use Likert-type scale. Qualitative research methods, on the contrary, do not involve numbers or mathematical calculations. Qualitative research is closely associated with words, sounds, feelings, emotions, and other elements that are non-quantifiable. Qualitative studies aim to ensure a greater level of depth of understanding, and qualitative data collection methods include interviews, questionnaires with open-ended questions, focus groups, observation, game or role-playing, case studies, and so forth. Qualitative data collection methods are exploratory in nature and are mainly concerned with gaining insight, understanding on underlying reasons and motivations. This table illustrates brief definitions, advantages, disadvantages of sampling techniques. I know you cannot see the details, so I have provided the source. It's a good heuristic as it provides many data analysis techniques, their definitions, and explanations of each, and their advantages and disadvantages. Summary of dissertation proposal sections. Chapter 1 is your introduction, what you intend to study, your research questions, who you'll be looking at, assumptions, limitations, delimitations, definition of terms. In chapter 2, you deal with your literature review, the theories behind your proposed study. Chapter 3 is the methodology, how you'll research it, how you'll discuss research findings, what outcomes you expect. You may provide a conclusion to your proposal. The conclusion can summarize your proposal. It should also contain conclusions based upon proposed research and be organized like the introduction. This section can contain a discussion of your work and offer suggestions for future research, in which case it provides an advanced organizer for the dissertation chapter 5 that discusses future research. Now we finally come to the dissertation. The title page states the title, the full name of the author, the university logo, and a text about the academic degree, the committee, and sometimes the place and time for the defense. The back of the title page is where you place the copyright note. In the acknowledgments, you thank the people who have contributed to your doctoral degree by providing academic supervision, administrative support, food and shelter, friendship, whatever. First and foremost, you should thank your committee chair, followed by the remaining committee members and the people who have helped shape your academic career thus far. You can then continue with thanking your close colleagues, friends, spouse, kids, parents, and so forth. The abstract includes a concise description of the research, the problems discussed in it, and their proposed solution. The abstract must focus on the result of the scientific investigation rather than giving the background and methodology for the investigation. This is why people read the abstract, to find out what you have discovered. The abstract is a self-contained text and should not contain references. The abstract is best written towards the end of the dissertation writing process. Plenty enough time for writing the abstract, a day or two, perhaps. It is generally more difficult to write a short, concise text than a long text. The abstract will be the most widely read and published part of your dissertation. This is what the potential reader must first look at when deciding when to spend more time on reading the entire dissertation. The dedication is very personal and takes many forms, from simply listing names to a soupy dedication. The table of contents should contain the title and beginning page of everything that follows. If there's a list of illustrations, that should come next. The list of tables contains all tables and their page numbers. The titles of the tables may be shortened if needed. Then we come to the chapters. The first chapter in a dissertation is commonly labeled Introduction and serves to acquaint the reader with the topic of investigation, its importance for science, and the issues it raises. Chapters 2 and 3 were discussed under the proposal. Research results are discussed in Chapter 4. Chapter 5, the final chapter of the dissertation, is almost inevitably called the conclusion. It summarizes the conclusions of the scientific investigation, the solutions to the problems stated in the beginning, suggestions for future research, and practical implications of the findings. This chapter should be relatively short and preferably written in a way that it can stand alone. Avoid copy-pasting sentences from the abstract and the introduction. The material found in the appendix can be helpful for the reader who seeks further information, and a reference list includes all sources cited in the work. Make sure that all works cited in the text are included here. Tips for avoiding roadblocks. Choose your committee carefully. Ensure that they get along with the chair and each other. Gather that they are excited about your study. Ensure that expertise related to your study is present. Make sure that at least one committee member has expertise in your field. Know your rights. Check relevant grad school policy. Students should be able to remove troublesome committee member. This is a policy at Drexel in the grad school, and I was not aware of it. Luckily, I was chair of the assistant director of the grad school, and I contacted him because there was an issue. And he told me about this, and I told my student removed the committee member who was from another university. Be respectful. Be aware of others' times and pressures. Appreciate time and input from the committee. They want you to succeed. The visual entitled Publishing Your Work reads, and I know it's tough to read, so I'll just tell you what's on it. You have original research work of current interest. Identify a journal with aims and scope closest to your research work. Format the manuscript according to the author guidelines of the targeted journal. Submit your manuscript online by providing complete detail in the online submission system. Do not submit your manuscript to more than one journal at the same time. The editor will initiate the peer review process for a well-formatted manuscript within the scope of the journal. Be patient and wait for a reply from the editor during the review process. Based on reviewers' recommendations, the editor will send you one of the following decision letters. Revision required. Revise the manuscript as per comments and resubmit. Decline. Look at your manuscript and the reason declined. Spend plenty of time to improve your overall manuscript and resubmit it as a fresh manuscript to this or another journal. Accepted. It's time to celebrate. Your manuscript will be copy edited by the journal for final publication. You will receive the galley-proof version for minor proofreading corrections, and your paper will be published. It's time to share your published work and cite in other related papers. Now it's time to play and grow. Congratulations. I'm happy to receive questions and/or comments.